Chapter 3. Circling for Prey. Weeks later, you find yourself sitting in the galley of a courtroom, half listening as Ariel lobs Charles some softball questions to defend Vitality against the lawsuit. Charles has already been prepped ad nauseum, which means far more of your focus is on the group text with your family. Going fine so far.
Good. Then now's the time to tell you I've made Elizabeth interim CEO. She'll be the one weighing in on the competition.
Bile rises in your throat at the pronouncement, especially when your stepmother replies. I'm very honored, and it's not a responsibility I take lightly. Especially in the company of Dante and Sabrina, who have been doing such important work. Dante and Sabrina. Dante and Sabrina. Yep. They don't even go here. You're not even going to pretend to make this fair. Just blatant favoritism all the way down.
Life isn't fair, kid. Sack up and shut up.
You snort with disgust and look up from your phone just as the bailiff leads Charles off the stand. Your Honor, we'd like to call Cameron Kincaid to the stand. Mentally shaking off the infuriating conversation with your family, you rise to head to the stand and feel a piece of paper slip into your palm. It's a note from Ariel. Barry Charles. You turn to whisper fiercely at her. What? I promised I'd... I don't care if you promised him he could be the Prince of Cordonia. His confession opens the door for Vitality to have full culpability. Next, they'll ask why we even had the capacity to do half of the stuff he did. And by the time all said and done, we'll both be in orange jumpsuits. Her stern expression conveys the seriousness of the matter, and you give her a quick, subtle nod. Consider it done. You take the stand, your mind reeling as you mentally revamp all of your pre-prepped answers. The prosecutor rises.
Thank you for joining us today. I know there's a lot going on at Vitality, so I'll cut to the chase. Did you know about your employees' extracurricular activities?
Glance at Charles in the back row. Did I know what was going on? Yes, once it was made public on the news. No, because I trust my execs. No, because I trust my execs. Mr. Levitt's abuse of power was as much a shock to us as it is the government.
Maybe so, but you're his direct superior. It's your job to know.
No, it's my job to make sure he's doing his job, which by all accounts he was. Exceedingly well, I might add. Looking into him would have been out of the ordinary, because we didn't typically hire anyone who can't hold their own. You catch Charles' fiery gaze for a split second before the prosecutor steps into your line of sight.
No oversight? That seems irresponsible and unlikely. I'd like to enter Exhibit A into the record.
The prosecutor raises a manila folder before handing it to the bailiff to be passed to you.
Please, tell the court what you're looking at.
These are printouts from my work calendar. My weekly check-ins with direct reports are highlighted.
I find it interesting that you have mandatory weekly check-ins, but claim to have no clue what your employees are up to.
You cavalierly toss the folder onto the stand in front of you and roll your eyes. I'm their boss, not their babysitter, their parent, or their priest. I don't ask about their personal lives. But, as it happens, I've also missed a number of these meetings recently.
You've simply missed them?
Yes, due to other responsibilities at work. It's a large company of great significance, which means a lot of fires to put out.
Oh, I bet. Which is why I have a hard time believing that this veritable four-alarm fire escaped your attention. I'm more inclined to believe that your very well-paid executive got caught, and rather than reprimand him or even report him, you covered for him. And would have kept covering for him if his affair partner hadn't blown the whistle.
I didn't... Objection. Speculation, Your Honor? That's enough. Judge Hamilton bangs her gavel, but that doesn't stop you from leaning forward in your seat to meet the prosecutor's eyes directly. I'm very good at what I do. My job is not a chaperone of the personal lives of employees. Mr. Levitt acted on his own volition.
Meanings aside, none of this explains why Vitality had access to American people's private data in the first place. Your Honor, we have sworn affidavits from Mr. Levitt's fair partner's husbands that their phone's geolocations were hacked.
Objection, hearsay. They can't possibly speak to that with any authority.
Their wives would, but none of them will testify. They won't say why, but I'm willing to bet the reason starts with the letters NDA.
Beats me, Counselor, but you know how fickle witnesses can be.
Well, finding by our analysts suggest he hacked his affair partner's phones, removed content of their nature to further hide his infractions.
Objection. Was there even a question in there?
Yes. Why does Vitality have access to phones they sold away any rights to?
Ariel objects again, but Judge Hamilton turns to you. I'll allow it, as it speaks to the reason we're all here, Miss Kincaid. All eyes turn to you, and you take a breath, biding your time while you think, your heart racing the abrupt change in questioning. This one's a tough one. Vitality was allowed access, Charles was not, is first and foremost an information company. Thinking. I'm gonna go with allowed access. A rogue employee acted against the company policy, access technology he was not privy to, and used it to obtain restricted information. If anything, we should be suing him for digital trespass. Digital trespass is an infringement that carries charges in San Francisco, but I see your point.
Your Honor.
Counselor, unless there's anything else, I'd suggest you wrap it up. It's lunchtime, and I'd rather stomach my shawarma than your swarm.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You step down and return to your seat, slipping the note from Ariel about pinning everything on Charles into George's hand. Then you lean close to whisper in his ear. There's a small chance you'll be asked whether you were involved in the mistress cover-up. If that happens, lie like the wind. Is he shaking? Oh, hell. We are so screwed. You take a deep breath as you wait for George to be called to the stand, but instead the judge bangs her gavel. Let me guess, diamond choice soon? Court is adjourned for lunch. Be back here in an hour. You exhale with a relief as the herd in the courtroom files into the hallway, putting a firm hand on George's arm as you follow. George, you have to calm down. You're wearing your panic all over your face. I know, but I can't help it. I've never been a believable liar, and I thought of trying now is turning my stomach. Whoa. You've never lied? It's actually kind of endearing, actually. It's refreshing to meet someone who isn't a trained liar from birth. Thank you? It's a good thing, I promise. It's just, as your mind starts to work overtime, you launch your feet and pace the floor. Innocence isn't going to be helpful here. ADA Marshall is out for blood, and if he catches you in a lie, we're all going down. I'm sorry. I know I'm the weak link, but maybe if I think about lying long enough, I'll get sick, and Judge Hamilton will think I got food poisoning. Oh, yeah. And who's going to be the one to sell her on that? George thinks for a second, then claps his hand over his mouth. Not it. Yeah, didn't think so. He glanced at the clock. You know, we do have 30 minutes before anyone comes back, and lucky for you, I'm one hell of a liar. What are you saying? That we're about to help you lie, George. George, follow me. Grab Ariel and George and head to the witness stand for practice. Let's start with something easy. George. I mean, you did say easy. Do you have feelings for me? No. No, of course not. You stare him down, much the way you did the lawyer before. Really? Really? You stare him down, and in less than a minute he cracks, his shoulders shaking as he breaks into uncontrollable laughter. If only that weren't incredibly cute. Wincing, you realize that George was serious about being unable to lie. Okay, yeah, you're gonna be a disaster on the stand. We need to work on this. Cameron, why don't you show George how it's done? You nod and switch places with George on the stand. The two most important fundamentals when it comes to telling the perfect lie are fake your eye contact and keep your breathing even. George nods, and you give Ariel a thumbs-up cue to begin. Great. Now, Cameron, did you attempt to cover up the misuse of vitality tech? Stare between her eyes as you answer. Take one solid even breath. You follow your exhale with a placid smile. I have no idea what you're talking about. I believe you. I did too. See, George, by breathing first, you lower your heart rate, and that slows the flow of adrenaline that makes a fib obvious. I don't know. I just always feel so guilty. My parents taught me the lying was disrespectful. You're insulting the other person's intelligence by thinking they can't see the truth. You can see the panic is starting to set in again, so you quickly sweep back in. You're not lying, you're sticking to half-truths. That's just an euphemism. It's still a lie by omission. Not at all. If the part that comes out of your mouth is the truth, then you told the truth. Technical, but accurate. Construct your answers to only address when asked, nothing more. A smile curls up the corner of George's mouth. How about this? Can I ask you a question, Cameron? Go for it. His eyes narrow in thought, and he taps his chin. Are you happy with that your father was shot? Am I happy he was shot? I'm happy you get to be my assistant instead of his. I'm glad to have you on board. It's made a big difference. Oh. See? Half-truth. I'm not answering the question about my father while simultaneously directing it towards you. George's cheeks burst into flames. Apparently your flattery worked so well he didn't even notice that you didn't quite answer the question. As the courtroom starts to refill, you abandon the witness box and take your seat, with George visibly calmer next to you. At least until the court is back in session and he's called to take the stand. ADM Marshall's eyes light up as George shakes his seat, clearly smelling blood in the water. George Fatiolofa, my records say that you started working for Vitality just over a month ago, and already you've been put on the stand to testify. It must feel like a lot of pressure. Even from 10 feet away, you can see George swallow like there's a bowling ball in his throat. Breathe, George, breathe. Objection, intimidating the witness. I'm simply extending my sympathies. After all, there's a lot at stake. And as a new employee, the inclination to follow orders is even stronger. Objection. Watch it, counselor. Yes, Your Honor. Now, George, did you have any part in helping Vitality cover up Mr. Leviat's mess? Catches George's eye for a split second, mime drawing in a breath. Thankfully, he follows, breathing deeply and letting it out. I had no part in what you're alleging. Nothing you want to state for the record about this scandal? Objection? Asked and answered. Actually, I'd like to answer that one. George locks eyes with the ADA marshal before fixing him with a smile. Miss Kincaid is a great boss who empowers her employees to be the best at all times by putting her faith in us. What we do with that trust is entirely up to us as competent professional adults. I was like, that was a good one. That wasn't answering it, and yet it was. ADA Marshal turns to catch you smiling, and you shoot him a wink. No further questions! The court's adjourned for the day. We'll meet back again tomorrow at 8 a.m. As she brings down her gavel, you breathe a sigh of relief. There are still other battles to be fought, but at least this one is looking up. It's time to get back to day-to-day operations, starting with the meeting of direct reports you've been putting off. With a deep sigh, you push into the conference room to find chaos. Quiet down. What's going on here? The room slowly falls silent, and finally you're forced to point to one of your direct reports. You speak. The warehouse employees are planning to protest. About what? Unfair working conditions and unpaid overtime. They're salaried. They don't get overtime. They get paid to work. If pay is based on work, you shouldn't be making anything. If possible, the room grows even quieter. Dangerously so. Excuse me? I couldn't hear you through that mumble. Loud and clear, please. The employee lifts his gaze from the floor and meets your eyes with a blaze. I said that you're the one to talk about not earning your keep. You've hadn't heard about all this weeks ago if you actually showed up to the meetings you keep calling. Thanks for your input. You're fired. Effective immediately and won't tolerate this disrespect. Ha! As if I care. Now I have all the time in the world to help plan the protest. He storms out and you swallow down the acid climbing up your throat as you turn to address the rest of the room. Anyone else have something to say? A sea of faces stares back, half filled with fear, half with anger. It's not the best response you could have hoped for, but no matter, the focus now is getting ahead of the protest. If there's one thing I learned from dear old Dad, it's that anyone can easily pacify with money. Good, I'll go first. I want all Vitality employees to know that I'm aware of their concerns and they will all be heard and addressed. At an all-expenses-paid company retreat. The room fills with noise again, the vibe much more positive, and you seize on the shift in tone. As for all of you, Vitality is as much a family as it is a business. As my direct reports, you're all aware of this. And in families, sometimes we have to sacrifice. There are some begrudging nods, but considering the chaos you entered, you'll take it. Now, I need updates, individual department reports, radio, you first. Cameron, our latest equipment budget is being denied. The company would be over projected numbers if we give the go-ahead. Plus, the current mics are fine. How dare you? You don't even use the... Enough. I'll settle this. Accounting, give them the money. We can't expect people to do the best work without good equipment. Thank you, Miss Kincaid. Radio looks pleased, but you can't say the same for accounting, whose manager looks ready to spit fire. Well, I guess we can kiss our bonus for staying under the budget goodbye. Who'd like to go next? No one says a word as you let your stony gaze travel over them. Finally, the product team leader coughs and raises his hand a few inches. I'll go. As you know, we've been launching a cell phone in a few weeks, but the launch is making things crunchy. Crunchy? It's too tight. We need a launch date pushed back. We're already in the middle of a push. Changing the date now would mean chaos. You focus on the product manager. Is there any way the new phone will make it out in time? Only if we use suboptimal parts. We're already over budget with the project. Getting parts already isn't cheap. Add in the rush cost, import fees, Vitality would be massively in the hole before launch. We just have to pray that the initial interest in the product helps cover it. We're not exactly a prayer-based business. We'll simply have to... So, economics 101. You're going to be out money either way. If you push the date, people are worried about the product. It means people are hesitant to spend money. 2, get the parts. You're going to be out money. Period. Pay overtime. You're going to be out money. Period. It's that simple. It's business. I'm going to say get the parts. It'll be a little janky on the inside, but no one's got to know, right? The important thing is getting the product out on time. Okay. But... Exactly. Great call. There's plenty of grumbling as you bring the meeting to a close, but that's always how it is. You stand by your decision, even if you didn't, you already made it. Time to move on. As the managers file out of the room, you gather your things together and find a shadow looming over you. Ted Griffin, what can I do for the illustrious IT manager? Oh, I just wanted to say that I think you did a great job today. Really great. He looks like he wants to curl into a ball and die as he mumbles a goodbye and rushes out of the room, and it doesn't take a Harvard MBA to realize he's got a massive crush on you. Well, I could prove useful. Okay. After a long day of corporate drama, you go to visit your father in the hospital. You think maybe you can steal a brief moment alone, update him on the day's wins, but... Dante, Sabrina didn't expect you here. Cameron, glad you made it. I was just telling Dad about the new tax legislation. Oh, fun. Well, I wouldn't expect you to understand the importance of working for the governor, but... You hold up a hand, stopping his rant. Dante... We get it, you're important. Do you? Because I don't think you were at the last fundraiser ball. We get it, you're important, you are important, you are important, you are important. Shut up, Sabrina. I don't think you are privy to the governor's personal schedule. We get it, you're important. Theo just ignores you both and turns back to your sister. You were saying, Pumpkin? Oh, right. It's everywhere. One day with Pete Sinclair at the Rosebud Festival, and we are totally breaking the internet. Your father smiles indignantly, and you roll your eyes. Sabrina, do me a favor and don't get knocked up. I can't stand the thought of you replicating with anyone more vapid than you. What? Gross. No way am I having a kid. She looks back at her phone, quickly typing, and you glance over her shoulder. Are you seriously looking up the definition of vapid? Your father chuckles, forever charmed by Sabrina's antics. But when she and Dante are both done regaling him, and he's done indulging them, he turns to you expectant. Well, since it's a show and tell, I took care of the court case. The case should close without costing Vitality a cent, and got all the mistresses to sign NDAs. The whole thing should be a slam dunk. You wait for some of the praise to finally be lobbed your way, but the room is silent. Not even the most same passing acknowledgement your daughter, sister got for simply going on a date. Seriously, nothing? I also took care of the Burgeoning Warehouse Rebellion. You were right, Dad. There really is nothing that can't be taken care of with cash. They were talking about striking, but I promised them a retreat, and they absolutely ate it up. Still, no response from your father. In fact, his reaction is to grow increasingly red in the face, and then the machine starts beeping until they're practically screaming. The hospital staff comes running, and you feel your chest pinch. Dad, what is it?
Did you let those things spiral out of control? There shouldn't have been issues like this in the first place. Not if you were doing your job.
Suddenly you feel 2 inches tall, just as you have your whole life.
Forget it. I know putting you in charge of things was a mistake. You can't be trusted with your responsibility. And putting Dante in charge of the new product launch. and Sabrina's in charge of the court case.
What? What about me? What am I supposed to do?
Don't worry, you can still plan your expensive-ass retreat. I'll just reach into my pocket and offer an allowance for this useless bullshit, same way I did when you were a kid.
Your face flames with shame, and your instinct is to keep your mouth shut and take it just as you always do. It's bad enough to be dressed down in front of a little audience, but then out of the corner of your eye, you see... Is Sabrina recording this? What the hell? The look in your father's eye dares you to speak, and just like that, you can no longer be silent. Okay. Listen, I'm just gonna beat him to death with a bedpan, okay? They always smile, the Diamond Choice, and good. You're severely underestimating me and my thought process. The company retreat isn't a childish whim. It's a way to hear the employees out before their concerns start to affect Vitality's bottom line. Theo's expression simmers with anger, but he lets you speak without interruption. I'll remind you, they're striking over unfair working conditions, conditions you set. Do you think you represent the everyman, that any of them don't look at you as part of 1%? They're fighting back against rules you set, not me. So, if anyone here doesn't know what they're doing...
I can't believe your gall! Have you forgotten that the company you're shitting on put food in your ungrateful mouth and clothes on your traitorous back?
You step forward, steadily meeting his gaze. I am grateful, but... that doesn't mean I can't critique it. Can't you see that I love the company almost as much as you do? That's why I want to fix all the wrong with it, so it can be at its best.
Is that so? Since Vitality's clearly not good enough for you as it is, tell me one thing that needs fixing.
It's clear your father has no idea how much you thought about this, how many times you've considered what plans you'd enact as CEO. Now it's just a matter of prioritizing. Now you've got his ear for 1 minute. We've got to trim the fat. After my meetings today, I looked over the annual budget statement.
And?
So much money's being sunken into projects that don't make a return on the investment. We need to be taking a much closer look to find what works and cut everything else. If I could just sit down with you... Just then your stepmother arrives with James in tow, and her eyes widen when she takes in the sight of your father in his state of rage. Not again! Everyone out, he needs his rest! You, Dante, and Sabrina slink back out into the waiting room. Nice job, and they're really impressive. Yeah, maybe next time you'll get a gold star. Your face burns and you refuse to spare them a glance, pulling out your phone as you hurry down the hall. All your focus is on your phone and as you dial Trey's number. He picks up almost immediately. Cameron? Trey, we need to meet and strategize ASAP. It's time to put your bite where your bark is. Really? That was it? Okay. Oh, first and foremost, it's Christmas Day, and I'm doing choices for you guys. Anyway, if you do appreciate it, or you're not celebrating, or what if you are celebrating, let me know. Really, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you are, how's your day going? What did you get? How about that? If you're not celebrating, how's your day going? And what are you doing for today? Me, I'm doing choices for all of you. So please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. Love your beautiful faces. Yeah, that's it. Peace.